Hi, everybody. Welcome to the G-Free Deliciously, Cooking with G-Free Deliciously cooking show. I'm so happy to have you in my kitchen today. My name is Kimberly, and we're doing a fantastic simple salad today, chicken salad, cranberry chicken salad, adding grapes to it. And this is really a classic salad. So we're at the beginning of a brand new month for the cooking collections through Wildtree. And we've got a whole new bundle of products for you. Today, I'm featuring one of the products in the bundle, which is cranberry poppy seed dressing. And then we'll be using the other products in recipes throughout the month. Here we've got our hearty spaghetti sauce blend, an herbes de Provence blend, and a s'mores dessert blend that I'm super duper excited about. So I'm just going to start putting this all together. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to try to mix in a little bit of history about chicken salad and also mayonnaise, some things that I recently learned about mayonnaise. So I started off and I've got um, I'm using turkey today. You can easily switch this recipe up for turkey. I went ahead when I froze turkey after Thanksgiving. I just diced this up into about half-inch pieces and froze it in the freezer. I took it out yesterday and it was all thawed to use by this morning. And so we'll be using turkey this morning. Otherwise, you're going to want just a couple chicken breasts, about 1 pound of skinless, boneless meat. Breast meat will work really good for this recipe. Or you could mix it up with some thigh and leg meat as well. So we're going to get started. Um, uh, our chicken is all cooked. Of course, if you were starting with raw meat, you're going to use about a tablespoon of our grapeseed oil in a fry pan. You're going to dice it again into about half-inch chunks and just fry that up until it's cooked through, which is going to take you about 5 minutes is all. From there, then, and you could, I'm back up a little bit. See, my head is always going 90 miles an hour. So I always like to dice up my chicken before it goes in the pan when I'm cooking it. But you certainly could just fry the chicken breast, take it out, and then either shred it or dice it into pieces at that point. So I just wanted to note that too. I find it's a little easier just when I'm cleaning the chicken all up ahead of time. I normally start by just dismembering a chicken, and so then I'll take the skin and the bones out and freeze it from there for easy use. But you can always buy chicken breasts that are ready to go and do it that way. Again, I'm using a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. We're going to start by making the dressing here. Put that into your bowl. And then I have 1/3 cup of the cranberry poppy seed dressing. And that is where the cranberry comes from in this recipe, is because of the cranberry poppy seed dressing. So I get those out of the way. And that's all there is to this simple dressing. Get a very last little bit of that mayo. And you're going to just blend those together by whisking quickly to have your dressing to be used in this wonderful, wonderful salad. And I always have a hard time doing two things to once. You might have noticed that in earlier videos because my head is always on making the recipe and that. But I wanted to talk just for a minute. I'll interrupt myself in preparing everything. Wanted to talk just a minute about the history of chicken salad and where it came to be. I also always have an inquiring mind as to food history, and I think it's fascinating to find out when those came into our culinary regular cooking and preparing our meals. So back in 1806, there was a lady called Maria Elza Rendell, and she worked for a publisher, keeping his household in order. And with all of her cooking notes and her recipes in a handwritten journal, he discovered that she had all of this information. And so he published this cooking book, and it really was the standard recipe cooking book of the time. It was called The New System of Domestic Cookery, and it was formed upon the principles, economy, and adapted to the uses of private families. That's a big, long title. But as I got looking through that book, because I love reading old cookbooks, on page 131, as I was looking through the references on chicken, I found that Elza began talking about small dishes for suppers. And among the various ideas that she proposed in this cookbook, she talks about cold meats and slices on a dish, or using those cold meats in sandwiches. Then continuing, she writes about force meat. And that's not horse meat, that's force meat with an F. And if you're not familiar with making force meat, we still use the process today in making sausages and jerkies and salami, that type of thing. It's a process of grinding the meat with the fat, and the fat is worked into the meat. So nowadays we would use a food processor or a food chopper of some sort to do that. But back in the day, it was all done by hand. So once the meat and the fat are mixed, the author instructs to add other ingredients to flavor the mixture, such as an egg or a bit of onion, a little salt and pepper, nutmeg. She talks about marjoram, many different ingredients that she talks about. And reading on, she says that the mixture is much admired, but according to the purpose that it's used for, any addition may flavor this meat mixture. And she noted that cold chicken was a great improvement. I get a kick out of the way they phrase some of the things and that. So then she went on to talk about lemon thyme being a good substitute, and tarragon giving a French flavor. So that got me thinking about the whole thing of French flavor. So did the French really figure this out and start using this and develop a chicken salad? So as I researched this a little bit further, upon further investigation, here is where things really start to get fascinating. And I'm going to start mixing together my turkey and all of the ingredients as I talk a little bit more about this. So first of all, I'm going to be adding in, I've got about a cup, or excuse me, half a cup, which is 1 rib of celery, and I've just chopped that very fine. I've got a cup of grapes that have been cut in half, and I'm going to add that too. Now, because I'm kind of crazy this way, I counted my grapes to figure out how many grapes a cup would be, and it's about 24 to 26 grapes in a cup. And then I've got a half a cup of slivered or sliced almonds. I've used a little bit of each today that I'm adding in there. So I mentioned, and as I stir this, I mentioned that this is really, in the history of chicken salad, this is really where things get interesting and very, very fascinating. As I mentioned, this cookbook that I'm talking about from Elsa Rundle is not a French cookbook. It's an American or an English cookbook rather. And so did the French develop the chicken salad? Maybe, maybe not. And that. So it's important to note also that France, and now I'm just going to add in my dressing here, now that I've got things, the grapes, the celery, and everything all mixed together. It's important to note that France had great influence on cooking in the early 1800s. And so that I get this right, I just want to read this to you. Around this time, at least partly, it was due to politics of cooking in the late 18th century. So this is going to get somewhat controversial at this point, and I found different references, but due to complex historical events and economic realities, France's centralized position among the Western European nations revealed famous cookbooks created by the chefs for French kings and other elites. And France therefore gained the reputation of being the height of European cuisine. So there was a great popularity for French food and French chefs in countries like England and Germany. So once you've got your dressing into the bowl here, you're just going to mix that up a little bit. And I like to let the flavors kind of mingle. So once you've got things mixed up, and hopefully you can see just what a pretty salad this is, I'm just going to set it aside here for a minute while I finish up telling you about the history. So about that time, and that here is where mayonnaise comes into the picture. As near as I found, mayonnaise just sort of showed up in the late 1700s to early 1800s. And there are many questions of how and where it started being made and used in recipes. But there are references to it first being cited in a French cookbook in 1808. So although I've read references to it appearing a few years earlier also in a German cookbook, it was used in a recipe for mayonnaise de poulet. And I don't know if I'm saying that right because of course I'm not French, but in French, that means chicken and mayonnaise. And that sounds an awful lot like chicken salad to me. So that's pretty fascinating. And then old menus and cookbooks, and that they really gave clear evidence that mixtures of minced chicken and mayonnaise were well known in colonial times in America. And probably they were most popularized by German settlers coming to the Americas. And then I found a recipe by Eliza Leslie. This is another Eliza, but different from the first gal. And in 1845, she published a cookbook, um, which was called Directions for Cookery in its Various Branches. And you can get this free through Kindle. And I've been reading some of that, and it's really, really fascinating. You'll love some of the language because they talked quite differently back in those days. And that. So fast forward to today, and yes, I fast forward in my story here. I am going to grab my bread. And before I continue with the story, I wanted to keep it from drying out. So I had put a little bit of saran wrap over the top. So there are several ways that you can serve this salad. One would be in lettuce cups. One would be to stuff it into a pita. And another one of my favorites is to use rye bread. So I've got my pita and my rye bread here. Oh, let me step away for just a second because I want to tell you about a gluten-free pita bread that is wonderful. I cannot tell the difference between this and when I used to eat pita breads before I was celiac. So this is by Be Free Pita Stone Baked Pita Breads, and it's very, very good. So look for that. I know that you can get it. I buy it through Gluten Free Mall, and there are links to that on my website. So you can find it there, and I'll make sure that when the recipe is posted, you'll find a link also for that. So fast forward to today, and mayonnaise really is a simple condiment that we use on so many sandwiches and everything. And really, it's next to endless, all the varieties that you can use. And so I just put a little chicken salad in there and top with a little lettuce, and then maybe another scoop or two of the chicken salad. And I'm going to put this over on, oops, I'm losing some of my insides. Put that over on the plate. I'll show it all to you in just a moment. And that this time, maybe I'll start with the lettuces here. So during the antebellum period, which was 1812 to 1815, there are many, many references of Southern ladies and having chicken salad sandwiches, entertaining with that during that period of the 1800s. So the antebellum period really was during 1812 to 1815, and then before the Civil War. And then later on in American history, and I'm making quite a mess here, but you know, the messiest foods are always the best, I say. We'll just put that there. Top it off with another piece of rye bread. And I've got a sharp knife for cutting it in half. So moving on in American history, it was, oh goodness, let's see, 1863, when a gentleman in Rhode Island, I don't mean to be out of the camera too long, when a gentleman in Rhode Island, he had a meat market. His name was Liam Gray, and he supposedly created the first commercial chicken sandwich by mixing leftover chicken with tarragon and grapes and mayonnaise. And the dish became so popular that within a very short time, he no longer had a meat market, but he had a deli. So that's where chicken salad sandwiches came from. It was the entrepreneurial spirit in a man who took a fancy French salad eaten by rich people, putting it on a bread. He used his refrigerators to keep the meats cool at his market so that everyday people of Rhode Island could taste how the wealthy ate. And I just find it all to be so fascinating. So just going back to the cranberry poppy seed dressing here, and that I wanted to mention the ingredients. It has sunflower oil, organic cane sugar, filtered water, organic apple cider vinegar, organic concentrated cranberry juice, sea salt, poppy seeds, and organic ground mustard, and a couple gums to make it nice and thick and juicy for the salad. You also could use some cranberries. I like the Ocean Spray craisins. You could mix that in too for another little bit of layer of flavor for your sandwich. I'm just gonna set this over here so that you can see it, hopefully. And it makes a delicious, wonderful, quick salad, perfect for any time during the holidays here when maybe you want a light lunch or dinner because you've been holidaying and busy all day long. So this would be quick. As always, thank you again so much for joining me today on Cooking G-Free Deliciously. I love you very much. And I'm going to have to go because I got a frog in my throat. We'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.